Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie.
That's it. That's our cold opening. Need we say more?
No.
That's it. We're going to get into it. We're talking Barbie. And we have a special guest, our favorite guest, MacKenzie Green, to discuss Barbie. So let's get into it. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Rolando.
And I'm Eddie Z.
And this is Remakes, Reboots, and Revivals.
An original podcast
about unoriginality.
It is the weekend after the Barbenheimer weekend, and we are here to discuss the film event of the summer. Funny enough, too, only one of us actually participated in the Barbenheimer. Well, technically,
two. Technically.
And it's not who you think it would be.
Right.
Which is kind of shocking. But before we get into that, as always, it is a pleasure to have MacKenzie Green with us today to talk about Barbie, which we are qualifying as a revival. I don't care. Take your hate somewhere else.
Yeah, it's or I consider it a sequel. I feel like all the previous Barbie movies were to prepare you because we spent all those movies in Barbie land getting into the fantasy, and now we took a step back, and now we're like, guess what? You've been here with these characters.
Yes.
Now we're in their world.
So I consider it a reboot because, as far as I know, there's rumors that now they're trying to do a Mattel universe movie. I don't know. That's just
heard that.
No, I've heard
just
that.
silly nonsense or an actual thing. Okay, so it may be an actual thing.
Yeah, because Lily Collins is doing
a reboot.
Polly Pocket, and then
Polly Pocket, I've heard,
and Daniel Kaluuya has Barney. So
and Barney's supposed to be like a horror, I think.
Which I was like, didn't nobody ask for that, but okay.
Should be interesting.
We had that. It was called Death to Sparky, and it was like a dark comedy.
That movie, I'm glad you said that because Death to Smoochie, because I many times think it was a fever dream that I had that movie was real, and it was such a ridiculous film. Yeah, I hope Daniel Kaluuya really lets himself be weird on this one.
Yeah. I didn't know about that at all, so that's
oh, you didn't know about the Mattel universe?
Well, I knew about the Mattel. I didn't know about the Barney. So
yeah, I think
interesting.
So I know we're going to talk about this, but I think that was the wrong takeaway from the success of this movie. Is that we're not asking for a universe movie. We're asking for just like really creative, inventive films.
That's really my favorite. Yeah, like I like that we're in the midst of a SAG strike and a WGA strike. That is basically what you just said, Rolando. Is not their takeaway was not like, wow, good acting, proper storytelling. When you let people have creative freedom, they're like, oh my God, guys, hot take. Yeah. We should make a bunch of movies based off of every single toy we have. It's like, no, that's not what anybody said.
I mean, if Barbenheimer should teach them anything, it's that people want creative things. People are excited for it. They're turning out for it, like new original works. Like people didn't turn out so much for Mission Impossible. You know, people haven't turned out as much for this, which is kind of shocking.
Which is really I think everybody felt like, I don't know. I feel like there must have been camps where it was like, I don't want to watch Tom Cruise try to kill himself too. Like,
that's
why
all I want to watch.
Yeah. I'm like, nothing would make him happier than for his final days to be mid-stunt. And then and probably in his like Scientology will, it says use AI to finish the movie. Like, do what you have to do because I want it out there. But
he would look at the camera and be like, this was for you.
Yeah. Like, goodbye. Yeah, this is my farewell. Like, I feel like the funny part with Mission Impossible also is people felt like, is the entire movie just him jumping off the mountain? Is that it? Because if it is, I'm not paying all this money to go do that.
I know. Maybe they showed too good of a stunt. I loved Mission Impossible. Just want to say,
I love Tom
so
Cruise.
Good.
I'm sorry. I know it's a bad take, and I just find myself all the time going, "Oh, if not for the cult, I could really get into him."
I mean, you know. That's what movies are there for, to entertain.
Somebody said during the SAG strike, Tom has already started the next movie, and somebody was like, but it's a SAG strike. And somebody goes, I don't think that he thinks, though, he's an actor. I think he believes that he is, in fact, these characters. Like, he is like a Jared Leto of action, where he's like, I am not Tom, I am the character. And you're like...
That's hilarious.
Yeah. But, I mean, Barbie is doing phenomenally well.
Good for Greta.
Yeah,
so good for Greta Gerwig. It's already the 9th highest grossing film of this year, with it being only out less than a week. And it's probably well on its way to overtaking Avatar: Way of Water and other. I mean, it's going to be up there with Super Mario Brothers as the highest grossing movie this year.
I can't believe that Barbie.
Exciting.
You know, I love that for James Cameron because Catherine Bigelow, she won the Oscar. And now he's being taken out yet again by another woman, Greta Gerwig this time, and Barbie. So
the universe
it humbles him, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, we would hope so. So like I said too, it was Barbenheimer weekend, which is people going to see Oppenheimer and then Barbie. I did not see Oppenheimer. MacKenzie, you didn't see Oppenheimer, right?
Did not. Here's the horrible part. I'm such a Barbenheimer Fugazi perpetrator. I had a Barbenheimer weekend, like a Barbenheimer shirt I basically wore all weekend. And so truly, I kept representing myself as Team Barbenheimer with people being like, oh, have you seen both? And I'd be like, not yet, just Barbie. And then they'd be like, oh my God, Barbenheimer, you did both movies? Just Barbie so far.
Just Barbie.
You're celebrating the spirit of Barbenheimer and what it means to the movie industry.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was. But my mom did the full Barbenheimer. Not my dad, just my mom.
Did she do it the same day?
Yeah. My mom was like, I got
She did the full. Yeah.
The full. So
now,
shout out to my 7-year-old mom for doing full Barbenheimer.
Now, you said that she saw Barbie first and then Oppenheimer.
Yes.
Does she regret that? Like, does she wish she had
She said that. She goes, I wish I had seen Oppenheimer first. And she goes, because, how does she put this? She goes, Oppenheimer is basically if Ken kept going.
Oh,
like
actually, that's a beautiful way of putting it.
So she goes, so I basically was in like a horror film where it was like, oh my God. It was like, and Barbie thought she fixed it. Turns out when she left... that Ken just kept going, and we ended up at Oppenheimer. And I was like, that's a wild take, Mom.
Yeah.
That's a very, very excellent take also from your mom's part. So,
yeah. Rolando did see Oppenheimer, and I'm sure, did you see it reversed, or did you see Oppenheimer first and then Barbie, or?
No, I ended my weekend with Oppenheimer. It was a depressing.
Everybody that ends with Oppenheimer has that reaction where they're like, it was not as fun a weekend as everybody else had.
Yeah, no, seriously, because the true double feature is you watch the longer film and the more serious film first, and then the lighter film second. You're just always going to have a good time when you do that. So I'm sorry.
I was at a certain point where I thought that I was not going to see Oppenheimer, but my friend, I had mentioned this, he had bought us tickets without like telling us. He just bought them because it was the last ones he could find that were like in an IMAX screening and like we all sat separately. That's how that's how chaotic it was.
You
I was so mad that we were all separated.
Like, we're sitting separate. Do you want to go home?
Yeah. Eddie was just like, no.
Now? I'm like, no, we're gonna.
Because I like to whisper little comments here and there when things are funny.
So instead, he started texting me through the movie
because I had the far back row, so I wasn't bothering anyone.
I ignore because of movie etiquette.
Eddie's yes. I was like basically alone though. My like corner had no one. I was like in the far back row.
I think my favorite thing of the Barbenheimer weekend, at least for my mom, is that a lot of people are like, "Oh, your dad didn't go see Barbie," because of course it's like the assumption is, "Oh, dad's." I'm like, no, my mom went to the movie at 10 a.m. and my dad was like, "What? It's Saturday. Go to sleep." So like now he's upset that he hasn't seen Barbie. Like whenever a commercial comes up, he's like, "I want to see Barbie." I don't know why I had to go see. Like he just keeps looking at her like, when you had to pick between the two movies, why'd you pick that one? I didn't like it. Like
that's great. Yeah,
but yeah.
Well, I will be seeing Oppenheimer at some point, but I'm not in any rush. But I got on Barbie.
I liked it. I mean, I liked it a lot. It was a good movie, but like, I mean, you know.
Yeah.
I feel like Barbie had way more to like digest, and like it was so much visually. I actually don't know why Barbie wasn't filmed in IMAX, to be quite honest.
Same.
Because
I thought that the entire time I kept thinking, Greta, why didn't you do the same IMAX
like
70 millimeter? I'd watch this.
Yeah.
Like you had these sets that you built, and like this it showcases like actual true filmmaking
so much
too.
Detail.
Oh my God. Or
color.
Just the idea that she was like, there's no CGI in this film. It's all guys, I could talk about just the filmmaking aspect of it till my face falls off. Because like, and I'm with you. I'm like, why is this not an IMAX? This is a sweeping landscape where like, I want to see everything.
And like, and if you know behind the scenes stuff, like they built these sets. Like it's not CGI, which is just like mind-boggling. Same thing with, I mean, Christopher Nolan, that was his big move too. He tried to use as little, if no CGI as possible for the making of Oppenheimer. Great. I actually love this direction that filmmakers are going. This should be another takeaway, hopefully, for the industry. It's just like less CGI, more practical effects. They're more fun. They're more captivating on screen, I think, usually.
I do too.
Yeah. So I guess we should just like get into it.
Right, we have to.
What is our relationship with Barbie? Did you guys play with Barbies when you were younger? Did you like how prominent was Barbie in your life?
I grew up in a Barbie household. Like, I mean, we're talking like over 100 Barbies. But here's the thing. The way my entire adult life, I have been completely confused by how Barbie has been described to me, right? So like what she is talking about at the beginning of the film was my same naivety for most of my 20s and 30s. Like when people would be like, Barbie is a disgusting character. Like when she wakes up and she's like, we fix feminism. Girls believe they can be whatever they want to be. That was my house. Like my mom was like, you can have a Barbie, but it has to have a job. So like, I didn't know there was like hair surprise Barbie. Like I'd see the commercials, hold them up in the store. My mom would go, no, what does she do? And I'd be like, she's hair surprise. And she'd be like, oh, look, so here's an astronaut. And I'd be like, oh, okay. So like, I kept thinking when people said Barbie sets unrealistic standards, as Rolando knows from the Taylor Strecker Show, I'm a 5 a.m., 7 job having overworker because I grew up with this doll that was like, adulthood is you're a homeowner. You have a custom Corvette. If you want all those things, you've got to be a dog walker, veterinarian, astronaut, baker, babysitter who takes care of both of your small sisters while having a nice man friend around the house. Like I truly was like, adulthood is you are supposed to be everything. You can be the president and a hairdresser. So like I was so excited for this film. And then people started saying to me, I can't believe they're making a movie about Barbie. She sets such unrealistic beauty standards. Like the first time somebody said that to me, I was like, beauty standards? What beauty standards hath she set? What are you talking about? And they're like, she wants you to be so thin. And I was like, Barbie is thin? What are these words? What is this dark magic you tell me? And they're like, Barbie is only white and blonde. And I was like, who told you this? No, she is.
The people who see.
No, she's not.
There's so many other Barbies.
I was like,
the ones that are marketed.
What?
Sure, we can make that argument that like the white one is the one that's marketed,
so,
but like there are still
that's
options.
The funny thing is like the way Barbie, I for some reason it kind of like touched my heart because the way they talked before the crisis is kind of how my mom talked about Barbie, where like other little girls were running away. My mom was like, no, every day is perfect. And she's wonderful because she believes in herself and all the women around her. And I was like, yeah, we love the Barbie. So I kind of was on Margot Robbie's Barbie journey with her. I was like, I also am with you, Barbie.
Yeah. I too, Barbie was a big part of my life. There's footage of me at 2 years old, not only playing with Barbie, but singing along to the 80s Barbie music that they made that went along with like those TV movies or direct to VHS movies that I watched a lot growing up. It was Barbie and what was that band that she was in? Oh,
she was in
boy.
A band?
Yeah, she had a band. Barbie and
I was
Rockers. Barbie and the Rockers.
Because it reminded me of Gem and the Holograms.
Yep. Yes. Barbie and the Rockers was a doll line made in the 1980s to compete with Gem doll line. And they were around for 3 years. 1987. I was born in 88. So that was my thing. And I still know those songs by heart. I had the Barbie van. Video. Yeah, I will post it gladly.
Yes.
I had the Barbie van. I had all the different Barbies. I had Kens. Yeah. I bit off their feet, because I was a child. So I had weird Barbies. I don't remember when I stopped.
Oh, I just realized. How long did you play with Barbies?
I think well into before it was a double-digit number.
Same.
Okay.
So, there's still like a tradition with my mom. It also, we'll get into it later in the movie because there is a point where I was like, "You're so embarrassing," but she every year would buy me a Barbie. Still does that reminds her of me.
Aww,
that's really
that's actually cute.
So like so she'll be like, oh, you want to see the latest MacKenzie doll? And then like like the movie, I hit a point where then oh god, the way I cried at the end of the movie. Like,
oh my god, we're gonna get into that.
But truly, like I said, this movie took me on a journey, and I was like, oh my god, I gotta call this little girl named Phyllis, who I'm just not taking care of.
Yeah.
Oh.
Rolando, did you play with Barbies?
So I didn't play with. We only had one Barbie in our household. That was my sister's. She wasn't a Barbie girl, right? She was more tomboyish, so she never cared for the Barbie. But it was a Barbie that came with like software where you can design dresses.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you guys remember this Barbie, and it had like special paper that you could print it out. And so my sister never cared for that, but I actually did enjoy the software and like making the dresses and stuff and trying to print them. But I ran out of the sheets. You can make like little fabric designs basically and cut them up,
that's so
and
cute.
then like kind of tape it together and then make these like dresses. I actually enjoyed that software making the dresses for Barbie, you know, had my parents let me pursue it, I could have gone into fashion, basically.
Yeah.
Is the moral of the story. But I think the Barbie stayed around, like, it was like the one Barbie that we had that, like, we would, when me and my sister would play with our toys, like, you know, the Power Rangers toys and, like, mostly Power Rangers and Beanie Babies, like, they would all just play together. Usually Barbie would be, like, the damsel in distress for us. That's just the role that she was relegated to. You know?
That's great. That's great.
That is my connection with Barbie. Eddie.
Oh, I was going to say, I remember being really also upset that my Barbies and my American Girl dolls couldn't play because they just didn't make sense to me proportionally. And then that was just really upsetting to my playtime. I was like, well, she's a doctor and you have dysentery, Felicity. Like, how dare you not be the right size to be treated by Dr. Barbie?
That's the other thing. It always frustrated me with play with Barbies. Like, the one Barbie, she was so much taller than all my other toys.
Yeah.
Like, she was always just, like, tall. You know, and it was just like always just because you just had to sit her down to like kind of be almost at the same length as all my other action figures that I used to have.
Exactly.
Eddie, you had 5 sisters. Like, what was the Barbie
situation
ruling?
there?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So there was Barbie, there was Barbies, and there was Ken.
Oh, you had Kens too.
I remember kind of being fascinated with this, but not being okay in a very traditional Latino house to play with dolls. But my dad did buy me kind of like a military doll, similar to, not from like the Ken era, but similar to Ken in the sense of like you can remove his clothes and stuff like that. But I remember really needing that military doll to be friends with Ken.
Oh,
they need really to be.
You were like, they need to be best friends, probably roommates. I feel like they can really support each other.
Exactly.
They go on vacation together. Yeah.
Yes.
Their clothes fit
and their
each
clothes did intertwine.
There you go.
That's great.
They did fit each other.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
It feels like, you know.
Actually, that was a memory unlock for me. I had forgotten completely about this. But then I'm watching Barbie. I'm like, wait a minute. What is my relationship to this?
Yeah.
It all came like just rolling in.
Eddie just said this thing that I had, which is like truly me unpacking like, oh my God, I have been chased. I had the same moment you had where like this memory was unlocked of me like manically trying to send all the Barbies to work and then just going, I'm going to lie down and just putting my head in like this crate. And I saw that memory recently and I go, oh wow, that explains so much.
Hilarious. That's so funny.
Great.
Well, you know what? Again, more credit to this movie. That's what a good movie should do.
Yes.
I feel like have just unlock all these like old feelings you have. Like if you're going to like really exploit our nostalgia, exploit it properly.
For it. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, so let's get into this movie because we have a lot to unpack already. So, first of all, Barbie, directed by Greta Gerwig, and also co-written by Noah Baumbach with Greta Gerwig. It starts off, immediately sets a tone.
It does.
It openly attacks, I'm going to say attacks, mocks, but also like comes for, you know, a specific type of person who, if you can't get down with this in the first 5 minutes, you might not be down with the rest of this movie.
Oh, no.
And you should get down with it because it's actually a great commentary. It openly makes fun of one of the most iconic moments in film history that film boys love, because film boys, they love Stanley Kubrick.
Yes.
It's the opening of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and everyone's like, oh, you know, the transition of the bone in the air to space, it's the most iconic film transition ever, and people, you know, they're, you know, jacking off to this shit. And it replaces it with dolls.
Yes.
And it makes that also its own. And so immediately we set a tone that this film is a bunch of things. It's going to get a little meta. It's going to, you know, not only speak to the Barbie world, but to our world. So like, it's going to also come for people, and it's going to have a lot to say. It's going to provide a lot of commentary. And that's how the film opens.
Well, let's talk about that opening shot with the Margot Robbie just looking like statuesque.
I was going to say the first open cackle laugh was Helen Mirren's voiceover, in which she said, every doll, it was like all the dolls were babies to teach girls. And then she says that line about, but ask your mother how many times can you play mom? Like whatever that line was. It was one of those moments where I went, oh, I know where we are, because all the adults are howling and the kids are just laughing because their mom is like doubled over. Yeah. They're like, ha ha ha, ha ha. I get it. I totally get it. Like,
it was actually, in retrospect, like without even thinking about it, that was a really solid opening. Like in terms of like giving you, like telling you, like this is what this movie is, and it's just like, oh, like, and
because you know
point,
what?
Like, you just
because
have
again,
to go with it.
memories unlocked. My I have to realize, because of the age of Barbie, my mom was like in that sweet spot when it came out, and then is like getting handed it, right? So it hit me that like, I remember my grandmother vividly when people would gift me baby dolls, or as my Midwestern family calls it, baby dolls, for the holidays. My grandmother and my mom would always kind of like scoop them up and be like, thank you so much. So, oh, MacKenzie, look, there's U.S. soccer team Barbie with her best friend Brandy Chastain, and you're like, and I'm like,
I got that too.
Yeah, and then I'm like, but what about the baby? And they're like, the baby's not important. Look, she's a teacher, and I'm like, oh, she's a teacher. Like, truly, they would just be like, we don't need to play mommy. So that part made me laugh when they're like smashing them, because I just thought, wow, they really, like you said, they took every film bros, one of their favorite, like, my lasting memory, man, and they just went like samesies.
But they also gave commentary. What were you going to say, Rolando? You go for it.
I've said that must have been the moment that Ben Shapiro did have it already.
Oh, like, yeah. He was done. He's like, I got to get out of here.
But it's already giving commentary, too, because, like, look at how young girls were treated. They were being prepared to be mothers when they were fucking children.
Yes.
You know? And then along came someone who saw that they deserved more than that, and they deserve to actually see themselves in a different light. So already we're getting that.
Yeah.
And also, of course, Margot Robbie's outfit is based on the original 1959 Barbie, that if you look up, it's like, wow. If you look it up on the internet, they did a great job. She looks great.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
And that commentary later on in the film when Helen Mirren's like, note to filmmakers, if you're trying to make a point about people with self-esteem, don't use Margot Robbie.
Oh my God.
Like, thank God they did that.
That moment, and that was one where I went, oh, okay. So Greta was all the way in her direct tussie on this one, because she really went in there and said, yo, Noah, can we look at the script real quick? Because I was like, the idea that they would even acknowledge that, of like, we know, guys, it's really annoying when very beautiful people take off their makeup and then start crying about how ugly they are. It's like, we got it.
Like, she tried to do her ugliest cry, and it's just like, you're still gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like,
still so beautiful.
What a stutter. Yeah. Which I can't believe that was a discourse on the internet that they were calling her mid. Like, some guy actually had the audacity to call
it's the way I
Margot
feel
Robbie mid.
Oh, yeah, but it's up there with the Brie Larson thing, where it's like, because they say the quiet part out loud that you're not supposed to say, because also this movie gets into kind of mainstream feminism versus like what people are actually asking for, like an intersectional feminism. And I'm like, the minute they say the non like patriarchy, white supremacy friendly version of feminism, then it's like, you got to get out of here. You got to go.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah,
and then
seriously.
I love how the first thing is, because you're ugly. And that's kind of what the movie does, where it's like, I have cellulite. Throw me out. Like this movie basically did a better version of what She-Hulk was trying to do, which is, we already know what all your complaints are going to be. We already know we made this 3 years ago, and we already knew how much you were just going to be whiny little shits about it.
Yeah. So, all right. So after that opening, we go into Barbie Land, and we meet stereotypical Barbie, played by Margot Robbie. Barbie Land is a matriarchal society, and all the women there are self-sufficient. They're incredibly successful, and
they have a Supreme Court.
They have a Supreme Court that's all women.
I love that Supreme Court so much.
Again, you think to yourself, you made this movie 3 years ago, and the idea that like the minute she goes, and our Supreme Court is all women, again, whole theater cackling with laughter.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's like calling a shot that long in advance and knowing it's still going to be I just love it. I love good storytelling.
Yeah.
And then we meet the Kens, who, their whole thing is that they don't have a good day unless they're recognized by Barbie, and their whole thing is to be paired up with the Barbie and stuff. Yeah. So there's already, this dynamic that sets itself up. We meet the one Ken, Beach Ken, played by Ryan Gosling, who's just obsessed with stereotypical Barbie, and like wants to, have all this time to connect with her, and she's not emotionally available pretty much at all, and has any space for him in her life. They have like a big party that day. It's such a fun opening.
Yeah.
And it already kind of sets it up too. Like they have this perfect world, and then all of a sudden she has this obtrusive thought about death, which no one can relate to. So there seems to be some cracks happening in her life. And the whole thing, it's like, okay, change is going to happen, and change is scary, and she doesn't want change to happen. Yeah. They like everything the way that it is, but it's kind of inevitable. And pretty much she goes on the whole movie's about her finding a journey to find the girl who plays with her, to make her stop playing with her in a certain type of way so that she could go back to her life. And nothing can change. Now, I have to be really upfront about this. I enjoyed the movie. I liked it. But I'm a little confused about what this film is about, or what its central message is. I feel like it's saying a lot of different things. And when I put it together, I'm not quite sure what the overall statement is, because it's saying too much. Does anyone else feel that way?
I thought the whole statement of is basically America Ferrera's monologue. Is this idea of like of heaping unnecessary expectations and labels on everybody? Because I felt like that was the point of what they were trying to say with Ken, is that it's like, this is the disservice we do to men and boys by being like, this is what a man is. It's like, this is the disservice we do to Alan. We're like, you're Alan. And it's like, okay, but can I go figure out what that means? It's like, I felt like what the movie was saying is like, there's a very specific way that we want people to perform their part in the world. And if they don't do it in that way, then somehow it throws everything off, when in reality, like, if you just existed as your own doll, period, full stop, you would genuinely be able to find what you actually want. Like, I felt like that's what they were trying to do. Is there was that entire speech where it was like, we are forcing so much expectation on a doll. Imagine how everybody else in the world feels.
No, for sure. I mean, and that moment was so impactful. Yes, Rolando.
I think, no. I mean, I think MacKenzie nailed it on the head. I do think that ultimately you could whittle down like the entire what is this movie about to that speech that America Ferrera gives, which was a great speech, right? That monologue. I think more so, though, interestingly enough, I think like having Ken become such a focal point to the movie really just kind of, it was a great juxtaposition, because you also do see it's just like, we, like this is something that like a lot of conservatives have been arguing about this movie, that this movie feels very anti-men, and I don't think it's anti-men at all. I think what the problem is being pro-woman does not make you anti-man, and actually quite the opposite. Like, I think this movie was actually very sensitive to the fact that like men have their own struggles that like the patriarchy has put on top of them.
You know what?
Absolutely.
You know what? That was the part about Ken, which I'm sure most people are like, I did not cry about that, but like, I called my mom, and he's gonna kill me for saying this, but I don't care, man. I'm gonna tell this story. My cousin Tyler very much felt like Beach Ken. Like, Tyler was like, he is my cousin. We are like twins. We call ourselves twins. We're only 2 months apart in age. And he was always very much like, he didn't match what Indiana saw as a young black man. And not saying that Tyler is like, he's a queer. No, Tyler's married right now to a very lovely lady. Hi, Steph. But like, he never wanted to be Ken or be patriarchy in the way it was. But like, Tyler tried to patriarchy so much that he ended up in the sheriff's department, that he like went through police academy. And I truly remember the day he basically came to us and said like, I thought there would be more horses. And now that I realize there aren't, I don't want, like, he truly came to all of us one day as like because he grew up in this family of women, and then his father passes away. So now he's chasing down what is a man. And I remember the day he came to all of us and it was like, I don't like getting shot at every day. And like, and having to be mean to people and all this stuff. And we were all over like, oh, well then you should quit the sheriff's department. And it was like that moment when Ken is crying and she's like, are you upset? And he's like, no, I'm great. It reminded me so much of the day he was trying to tell all of us he didn't want to do this anymore. So like, I immediately recognized that story of like forcing a version of manliness and manhood on young men and boys in a way that at times even they're like, I don't want to do this. Like, this isn't fun anymore. It's actually making me feel awful and isolated, and like I can't go back to the people that I like loved. Yeah, it's just every time I see a commentary being like, it's anti-men, I'm like, no, it's for you guys too, because like you've gotten fucked over by this whole process as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's something I've been struggling with that like as of late, like just like this whole idea of like, oh, like I'm in a 2 male partner relationship, right? Like the idea of gender roles should be thrown out the window, and yet here I am constantly trying to like live up to these like stereotypes that people have put on, especially coming from a Latino household of like, you're the man, you're supposed to provide and stuff. And it's just like, it's really, and the last few months I've kind of realized like how much is just fucked with my head and stuff, and it's a struggle, you know. So like, I empathize completely with like that part of the storyline and stuff. So I don't, so like I think I ultimately do think it's just like, I mean, if you whittle down the thing, it's just like the patriarchy has fucked over both men and women.
Yes.
There you go. That is what this movie is.
I mean, I thought it was clear what Greta was doing, and the fact that Issa Rae was like, yeah, she said to me, I want you to be my president. Like, I just felt like there were little things in there, like you said, I was like, the thesis is, the patriarchy is screwing us all. We're all miserable. Mm-hmm. Those construction workers don't want to yell at a woman about her genitals. Ken wishes there were more horses involved in patriarchy. Mini fridges are awful. Nobody wants you to play the guitar at them. It's also exhausting being in charge of everything as one woman by yourself. Yeah. Like, it was just brilliant.
The no one wants to play the guitar at you hit home, because like that is truly, there's nothing more awkward than when someone's trying to do a solo for you. It's just like, oh, I have to just what am I supposed to do here?
I tell people all the time, like, I hate public focus singing. It just makes me so uncomfortable. So please look away.
I never want to play a guitar in front of anyone.
One of my good friends. Oh, I was about to say, one of my good friends, as a gift for like a couple for a wedding, he performed a song for them, and it was like the most awkward thing in the world. Like at the reception, we're just like, oh my god,
I'll leave.
Do this to yourself?
If you make me uncomfortable, I'll just leave.
He was. He's probably listening actually, but like he is the guitarist from my wedding band. He was also a groomsman.
Got it. That's adorable.
How do you maintain friends? I don't know. How do you maintain friends?
No, I told him, like, this is more... I told him beforehand and afterwards. There you go. So, like, he knows.
And then you watch the movie and he was like, ooh, okay.
Yeah. And you know what? And I mean, I completely agree with you guys. And I think that's one of the things that the movie was going for. And I do still feel like it was trying to pack in too much, to the point where I was like, okay, wait. Overall thesis. Because then there's like... But then she wants to become a human.
Yeah, there
throws me off.
There is a mother-daughter storyline that like took me a second.
Yeah. So I don't know, but like, and also, is this maybe like a dark bad read? But like, I wish it was funnier. I didn't think it was as funny as I hoped.
So many people I've talked to are like, I thought it was gonna be funnier. Like, I have one friend that truly wanted it to be like Legally Blonde funny. Another friend who was like, they had Will Ferrell in the movie and he wasn't that funny, and I just kept being like.
He wasn't.
Okay, he wasn't. Will Ferrell was probably my least favorite part of the movie.
And also kind of unnecessary.
Truly. Yeah. Like, I got the point. Yeah. Like, I got that, like, somebody at Mattel was like, well, like, I felt like it was that thing, right? Where it's like, well, if you're going to write me into the movie and I'm the one approving the movie, if anybody could play me, I'm going to pick Tracy Ellis Ross. Like, it would be like somebody being like, I'm going to make a movie about who, what, where, and how incompetent they are. I'd be like, well, if you're going to do it, at least put Tracy Ellis Ross playing me. Like, and then people just be like, why did they cast? It's like Viola Davis when Ben Affleck said, oh yeah, Michael Jordan told us you can do a movie about me, but you have to have Viola Davis play my mom. And they were like, oh shit, we're gonna have to write more for the mom because we can't go to Viola Davis with like, hey, can you be in our Michael Jordan movie where you have 4 lines? Thanks.
Yeah,
that's so funny.
I don't know. I guess for me, it was like some of the jokes in terms of at least commentary and the self-awareness and stuff. They just didn't land as much as I wanted them to. My audience loved the movie, and I was like, "Am I too jaded?" Like, I don't know.
I was really curious about this.
I think you are.
Outside of California, did that Century City joke make sense to other audiences?
Maybe, and there's that too. Yeah. That's not my culture.
Exactly.
What was the joke about Century City?
So like Century City here in LA is like where a lot of the management consulting offices are, and CAA and UTA are in that area. So like if you go to Century City at a certain time of the day, it is just men in suits screaming in their phones. Like it is the quintessential Ari Gold epicenter. Like if you go to the mall, people joke about like if you want to meet a rich man, go to the Century City Mall around lunchtime, because it's just like dudes in suits or khakis and Patagonia vests going to Sweet Green and like this other spot that's over there. So like that joke killed in Los Angeles where everybody was like screaming, but I kept thinking outside of LA, do people think that's a funny joke about like Ken going, I want to turn this into Century City, Los Angeles, California? I was like,
oh, yeah. So no, that one flew over my head.
There you go.
Yes,
yeah.
There you go. Yeah. I didn't even realize that. I didn't even
a learning opportunity.
Yes,
has been unlocked.
Because there's like an Equinox. So like that's what makes it so broy is like it's every broy thing over there, and like all these steakhouses and the Equinox and all these offices. So I was like, oh, this joke is killing in downtown LA, but I'm pretty sure this is probably not funny outside of here. Yeah. It's like when movies make very specific New York commentary, and you like all the New Yorkers are like, "This is great," and then like everybody else is like, "Oh."
It's like 30 Rock has some jokes in there that like only New Yorkers understand.
There you go. Yeah.
I mean, Seinfeld was kind of called out a lot for that early in the day, right? Yeah. Because like so much of it was like New York centric comedy, and yet it's it still became legendary, right? Yeah. So iconic. In terms of it being not funny enough, I don't know. I think I never expected to go into like a laugh riot. This is a Greta Gerwig film. Yeah. Like, Lady Bird was like, they had funny moments, but I wouldn't call it a comedy. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but why does it have to be like a laugh riot? I just simply thought it would be funnier. I don't know. Here's the thing too. Like, there was a lot of hype with this movie, and that's not the movie's fault.
No.
At all. No. Like it's actually more so the hype's fault, and I recognize that. But when I'm getting so much commentary and so much self-awareness, I just wish it hit me personally a little deeper. And again, I'm a very different target audience, and I have just, I don't know, I'm more critical when it comes to it in terms of story. So I think there were just certain things that didn't quite make sense to me.
I think once I
can tell you a lot of the movie.
I think once I had seen her Letterboxd video, I was aware of what I was
good video.
What I was going into, right? So like when other people were getting hyped up and being like, it's about to be the new age life size, or people in my life were like, oh my God, it's like Legally Blonde. I was like, you should really watch the Letterboxd video so you know where So I immediately went into it thinking I'll probably chuckle at the stuff from the trailer. There's probably everything else in here that was probably meant to be a thinker. So I kept like actually lowering the expectations of people in my life that were like, I'm gonna go see it like you told me. And I'm like, okay, so this is probably gonna be like Lady Bird, where it's gonna be a little depressing and like two little tee-hee-hees. Yeah, and I'm like, so just like have a good time, but be open to learning about existential crisis. So we all came out, like my circle came out being like, that was really funny. I like that movie, because we were prepared for like Little Women. Like we were ready. Right. We went in ready.
Yeah. And I mean, but even like, Little Women, I couldn't prepare for, because like I went in expecting something, and I came out with something completely fresh, different. Yeah. I was like, oh,
Little Women was kind of
this is And this is, I guess, why I went into Barbie knowing it's just like, no, I'm expecting something by Greta Gerwig.
Yes.
And I'm going to be open to whatever she delivers. And that's why I was so satisfied when I came out. It was like, this was such a wonderful film.
I was not prepared for a Mattel movie in partnership with Greta Gerwig. I was like, we're about to get a Greta Gerwig film. Let me just like...
Noah Baumbach.
And Noah Baumbach. So I was like, it's going to be what it's going to be. So just... go in. And then that's where I think I was like, this is like, I mean, again, Issa Rae being the one to cuss is still one of my...
Which, I mean, that part, like I was dug off my seat laughing. Like, it was so, like, she's just like, it's us, motherfucker.
Yeah, I kept thinking, what my theory is I'm convinced that was just a random take where Issa came down the steps and did that, and Greta was like, that's funny. And they submitted it to Mattel, and Mattel went, she cannot cuss. So they went, okay,
so it's just like,
we'll put Mattel over her mouth so that you guys know who told us she can't cuss.
Yeah. It is great. But even that, because like, but even that joke, even like, let's say that's what happened, the commentary there still is. You just are constantly reminded. It's just like, but this is also a corporate film. This is a commercial. We are watching a commercial at the end of the day.
That was the funny part, is when she kept saying, if you don't like it, take it up with Mattel. When like Kate McKinnon said, if you don't like it, take it up with Mattel. They made some decisions. And it's like, thank you. Because Greta's also saying like, child, I have to make this deep, thoughtful film with doll IP. Like, girl, I'm just trying to do what I could do.
And that's the thing. So I might have thought it was funnier, but I had no preparations for how much this film kind of broke my spirit in some ways and like crushed me. Yes. MacKenzie, how many times did you cry?
I cried so much. It was ridiculous.
I cried so much. And I was just like...
I cried so hard leaving This is a slight spoiler for The Order, and it's a complete tangent. But like, I held it together. I usually am known to cry during the credits when a movie makes me emotional, because I'm just like, wow. Held it together. I get outside and I can finally open my phone, and my mom has posted on her Instagram this photo I took of her in Paris inside of this like Barbie box to celebrate the 6th. And for some reason, all I then heard was Rhea Perlman going, mothers are just little girls that stand still so their daughters can know how far they've gone. And then I'm crying outside of the theater, and this older woman just comes up and she goes, it's okay, baby. It's okay. I was like, I am unwell. I was like, my mom is just a little girl who had to grow up. Oh, I lost it.
Yeah.
That was such a beautiful line, and I also props here to Rhea Perlman to have such a. It was like a nice. I think it was such a wonderful like performance, like just very very subdued, but like so loving, so caring and stuff. And it also, I mean, that moment you're kind of prepared for a little bit. I feel like early in the film when Barbie sees the older lady, and she's
that's the first minute crying. That was the first one that kind of made me like, oh. Because I think it wasn't even that she saw the older woman. It's that when she turns to her and says, "You're beautiful," because here she's been afraid the whole time up to this point of growing old. She says, "You're beautiful," and when she said, "I know that," I just it made. I was like, "Woohoo!" We're only like.
I thought that was such a Like what I thought that was such a beautiful part of the film too. Apparently, according to Greta, like it's something that the studio kind of was just like, let's cut it out. We don't need this, and it's just like no.
It's like no, you need that.
It's like a little moment that just like. It doesn't take up too much screen time, and it's such a wonderfully impactful moment.
Yeah. Her sitting on the bench trying to figure out, who her human is, and then like connecting, and seeing all the moments of what it is to be human. I was like, I'm dead.
I was like, oh, that's this movie. Like, I think that's where my brain couldn't even figure out it's like. Then I went, oh, this is what we're doing. Got it. Cool.
Yeah. And then of course later on, and that montage at the end, of the girls was just like. And that's the thing that Greta does the best for me, and those are the moments that I think worked overall the most for me. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting too because while she's trying to find her human, she gets confused that it's a young girl, and she goes and she meets those young girls, and they attack her for everything wrong that she represents according to them in society. Did you see the TikTok take?
Yes. I'm obsessed with the and it's true because somebody pointed out all 4 girls are named after the Bratz dolls.
Wow. Bratz dolls.
Yes. And I love that Bratz's clapback on TikTok was showing 4 dolls getting dressed and ready to go to the theater. And then they get to the theater and they're like, 4 tickets for Oppenheimer, please. And people were like, are we in the middle of the doll wars? Like, what is happening? But I did think I thought that was such a good, like, if it is the intention, and I can't imagine that it's not, like, it's such a good detail because I feel like that's a transition I remembered, which was like girls now being like, oh, there's this new doll on the scene. And again, my mother was like, what's her job? And I was like, well, this is Sasha. She's like really cool at her school and like plays a sport. My mom was like, again, not a job. We've discussed this before. Like, let's go back to the Barbies. I thought that was, that whole Sasha's monologue to Barbie about what she is not was like, I had the same reaction Barbie did because that was kind of the way I felt the first time in college. Somebody came to my dorm room and it was like, why do you have these disgusting dolls in your room? And I was like, disgusting dolls. And it was like, I got like a speech like that. And then they all went in like a drawer in my dorm room where I was like, oh God.
Yeah.
Which I mean, that little monologue is more or less like, I have a feeling, I don't know if you guys know, like Diablo Cody, she was at one point slated to write the Barbie script, but like she kind of then said, it's like, oh, I just couldn't deliver. I'm just not in it. Oh, she said I wanted to make a feminist take on Barbie, but that's impossible to do with something like this. Yeah, and it's just like, I don't know. Does Diablo Cody know what Barbie is? I think she may have a superficial read on Barbie, like the take that this young girl delivered, which is, and I think that's why I think the movie did a great job of like kind of show, at least it did a good job of like pivoting the conversation about what Barbie is, to make us recognize like, hey, look, the intent was to give women this opportunity to like say, hey, we can have careers too. What commercialization does to the product is a different story, but like the intent was still there, which is why I think having the ghost of Ruth, like present and like actually be like a force here for this movie was a smart choice, if albeit a weird one, because like again,
because the way they didn't, again, people weren't most folks were not thinking to themselves, there's a level of surrealism in this, there's satire, people were like, so they are housing a woman in the office of Mattel, like. The people behind me were not getting into the gig. They didn't give a damn. It was like a girl, a mom, like a dude, another girl, like another woman with them. And you could tell they were like, I don't know what this is. I don't like it. We about to kiki through this whole movie. What is this?
But I mean, you gotta keep in mind, like, it's just like she crossed over from Barbie Land into California. Like, the rules.
Yeah, I'm like they've
are out the window.
I kept being like, this is because I know her Letterboxd video. I will reference that till when she said Pee-wee's Playhouse, and I was like, oh, okay. So we are supposed to believe that like contained in the real world is this magical, surreal place. Like, I don't. It was. Yeah, that people.
There's no rhyme or reason to it.
People really were like being hella literal in like behind me, and I was like, just open yourself up to the fantasy, girl. Just be in it. Just be here.
Yeah. I mean, and I like how Mattel put this like little thing. Oh, this is not the first time this happened.
Yes.
Right. This happened before.
That made me laugh.
That they have protocols for this. Like, we have protocols. We have to deal with this now.
Thought I was going to piss myself when Alan said, yeah, and this has also happened with Alan before. And he said, and nobody cared because we're all 5 members of NSYNC. Yes, even that one. And
that's right.
Oh, I almost lost it. I was screaming because I was a Backstreet Boys girl and somebody who was deeply in love with Lance Bass, though, on the low. I was like, does Lance know that he's Alan? Does this explain everything? And when I tell you I almost peed my pants at that part when they've been like, no, this has happened before. Like a skipper broke into somebody's house in Key West and asked to babysit the children. Oh.
That was, I mean, it was, yeah, I mean, how... At that point, you just gotta like, because that's the thing. When you're in Barbie Land, it's not until you cross over to the real world when you realize, like, okay, now we're definitely entering like anything happens. It doesn't matter. You cannot like logic is out the window.
But can I be honest?
Fine.
Again, the weird point in the cultural zeitgeist in which this movie exists, right? So like, I'm sure when Greta was making it, she was like, people fear getting old. Prior to the movie coming out, the old filter drops on TikTok, and what does everybody do? Make videos about how disgusted they are with a video of them as an old person. And I was like, I mean, even down to Kylie Jenner. And what kills me about Kylie's videos, I'm like, you look just like your grandmother, and you are screaming about how you'd rather die than look. And then on the other side of it is people being like, I'm supposed to believe Barbies can walk back and forth between realms. This week, there are aliens. Honestly, at this point, I fully believe that American Girl dolls are who populated past history. Like, I don't think nothing's real anymore. I'm like, guess what? Harriet Tubman was Addie. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
I love that.
You just pitched an American Doll movie.
I know.
Seriously,
you know it's coming. You know it's coming. It's like
American Doll crossed through time.
Yeah, like at this point, like truly to sit in that movie, people are like, I'm supposed to believe that doll's just coming. I'm like, hey guys, aliens are real. Honestly, she might
confirmed.
Be. Confirmed. She honestly, Barbie might have been here before, bitch. I don't know. This might be one of the alternate realms.
Barbie and Ken.
Exactly.
Who I think now we should talk about Ken.
Yes. God bless. Oh, Ken. Ryan Gosling. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Was it me or did anyone find him oddly relatable?
I found that's what I'm saying. Absolutely. Is Ken? I found that's why
so relatable more than Barbie.
It reminded me so much, like I said, of my cousin Tyler, of his journey, because Tyler totally was this kid that wanted to play husband. Like I never wanted to play house. He was like, I shall marry life-size Barbie, and I was like, great, whatever. And then for Ken, the fact that he just kept saying like, well, I'm trying to figure out who I am. I was like, that's every like my age group's journey is like. Yeah. Am I just beach? What the hell am I supposed to be doing here?
Yeah. But not only that, like it's kind of societal roles reversed. Yeah. Like he just wants to be respected and seen.
Yes.
I resonate with that.
Oh,
I want people to see me for more than, what they think I am or like actually take me like seriously and value me. And that like when he's like, I just want to spend time with you. She's like, nope, it's girls' night. Hey, bye. And just like leaves him, I was just like, I feel for him.
Yeah.
I was actually enjoying that so much. There's something about like, I love to see where it's like a woman says, you know what? I really don't need this. I don't need to.
No, I love that. But I also,
but that idea.
I get what you're saying. But I guess what I enjoy about those scenes was Ken getting like, you know what? Just because you're a man doesn't mean and white and gorgeous doesn't mean I'm going to give you attention. I got better things going on right now. Except
I just love.
For sure.
I think like I guess like also what made me laugh about Ken, and I guess like when he talks about like when he finally like sees men, right, and like in the real world, it made me also laugh because I thought about, and I think like a lot of us have this experience, especially that are like grow up in affluent places. You kind of don't see what you're supposed to look like. So like when I went to Miami and I met like Black folks not from cul-de-sacs and gated communities, I had like the Ken moment, like the way he was like seeing horses and action and Chuck Norris. It was
Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, all of a sudden I was seeing like Beyonce and this, and I was like, what is this world? Why has no one ever told me of it? What is this? What kind of, like, I think up to that point I had existed, like, and Greta's probably not going to ever make this movie, but I'm sure also there have been dolls that are not stereotypical Barbie that get introduced to their model of doll in the real world. It's like, I feel like even when you hear people talk about like growing up in a small town, then going to like New York, and they're like, and I saw queer people for the first time, and I saw drag queens, and I saw stuff, and it blew my mind. I feel like every doll that is not stereotypical Barbie also has Ken's moment of being dropped someplace where they see other people living a life that they didn't think was a thing, and you kind of immediately go a little too ham, and you're like, I shall just copy this whole thing. I'll just do this because that's patriarchy, or that's whatever, or in my case, like that's blackness. And then you go on a journey to be like, actually, that was a little much. I think like we can scale this back to a version that I actually enjoy.
Exactly. When you kind of deny people of things, they kind of go crazy.
Yeah.
So that actually brings up another question I have. That, again, this is nothing to explain in the movie, but does that mean that all Barbies have their own Barbie land? Like, are there multiple Barbie lands in which is, because we have this stereotypical Barbie, right? Yeah. It seems the world revolves around her. But does that mean that like every Barbie that has like their own doll,
I thought
like,
that
they have their own world?
You know what? I guess that's where my brain went when I've talked to people about like a sequel. Is I'm like, is it going to be Issa's President Barbie going on the same journey Margot's where like she gets dropped into the real world and she's like, what the hell? You know, and like, and people are like, what's your job? And she's like, I'm president. And they're like, girl of what? Like, or is it the same thing where like they showed like hijabi Barbie? Is she gonna get dropped into the real world and have to come to terms with like, oh no, wait, this is what you all think my version of Barbie does in the real world? Like, we gotta fix this. Like, I guess that's where my brain starts being like, is that the sequel? Is every Barbie meeting their counterpart and seeing what needs to be fixed to make it more like Margot's journey?
Which, I mean, as much as it pains to say this, is just like, Warner Brothers is already just like, I know there's a strike going on, but they're just already.
Oh, they've already said they're like, we're doing Barbie too. Yeah, and I'm like,
it's confirmed.
It's already.
Yeah, they've already confirmed it. That's why Cillian Murphy was like, I'd like to be a Barbie too, please.
That's so funny. Yeah. he does have the bone structure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, he'd kill it.
Yeah.
But in terms of Ken, the one thing I was going to say, like early, some of the reviews I had gotten before the film, there was like mention of Oscar buzz for Ryan Gosling's performance. Yeah. And I was like, at first I rolled my eyes. I'm like, Ryan Gosling, an Oscar buzz for Barbie. I don't know. That now we're just pulling at straws. But then he came out of the movie, just like, oh,
so good.
He was so good. Like Ryan Gosling, like he did so much. And it's not, by no means am I saying that like Margot Robbie didn't do the heavy lifting, because she had to portray an iconic iconography here. But like Ryan Gosling he was able to almost create like a different version of Ken that we have never seen, because like we don't really think much of Ken. And I think he did it. It's such a, because he was also, at the end of the day, he was the antagonist of the storyline. Like he was not the villain per se, but like he was Barbie's antagonist.
For Who What Wear, we had the head of hair and makeup do an episode of the podcast with our CCO, and I feel like this tells you everything you need to know about Ryan's role. Is she said he showed up on his own to set that blonde and that tan and that in shape. Like nobody came to him and said, this is what we need you to do. That he showed up to set being like fully like that. And everybody was like, oh, okay. So this is the movie that he's making. Got it.
I mean, speaking of shape, I mean, those arms, my God.
Yes.
He was having the time of his life. I also think it's really sweet, like, because again, I know him from Mickey Mouse Club days. And I thought it was really sweet that he said he had to make amends with that kid in order to play this role. And I think that is interesting. I think that is the journey of what he's trying to show, is like he's basically saying what I have been saying, and friends of mine that have little boys have been saying, or even teenage boys have been saying, is like, they're that little boy, and then one day you wake up and they're a whole different person, and you can't figure out why they lost that kid so much. And so the idea that he even said that, where he was like, I had to make peace with the kid that loved to sing and dance, that was on Star Search, that did the Mickey Mouse Club, that liked to laugh at himself. It's like, I had to make peace with him and bring him with me to do this film.
And you know what? I mean, what a treat it was for all of us, because like he was able to sing, he was able to do some like figurative dance?
Yeah, his interpretive dance.
Interpretive dance, yes. And talk about what a sequence. Like, how do you not laugh at that, Nicole? They go from warring to like interpretive dance. Like I was.
Yeah.
I mean, and I like that they alluded to it when he's like getting what patriarchy is, and one of the moments is Grease, because you're like, this is how weird being a man is, that everybody's like that people will be like, don't be a sissy and wear your pants short, and you're like, please pull up a picture of Wilt Chamberlain playing basketball. Everything is hanging out. Those pants are so short, and it's like, you don't like. I think that was another brilliant thing where it was like, yes, men are so confusing. One second they're talking about like guns and stuff, and then they're like, yeah, Travolta's the GOAT, man. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
What? I mean, you are describing a man that sings and dances and did drag to do Hairspray. I'm lost right now.
Yeah. I mean, that's my point now, because topical, but like, you know, Ronald Reagan, very anti-union. Oh, it turns out he was like the head of the union.
I tell people
when they were on strike.
When I tell people that known socialist Ronald Reagan was the president of SAG, they're like,
you know,
huh? And I'm like, I want you to hear that sentence again. Like, I'm like, men. That was the other takeaway. It was like, men are confusing. Men
are confusing.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing, here's a problem, and this is like and maybe this isn't really this movie, but maybe we can make the connection. But like, I think this is something that we're seeing now. Is just like men nowadays. Like the problem is with the internet age, is just like we're not allowed to change. It seems like like once we kind of like pick something, that's our lane forever, and we are not allowed to say, "Oh, I messed up. I have learned from my errors, and I'm allowed to change."
Or
like,
I've been presented with new information. I'd like to change my choice, because that's the horse's line. It's like, when presented with new information, you are allowed to be like, "Huh, I held this belief, but I've now been presented with new information and anecdotal findings. I changed my mind." But like the fact that Ken is crying and she's like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "I'm great." It's like, no, you're not.
Yeah. What'd you guys think about that sequence too, when they tried to unbrainwash the women? And it's like, well, with men, you got to distract them. This is how you got to distract them. The Godfather.
The Godfather.
The Godfather was a good one.
Before. When I tell you, I have had men turn to me during dates and say, "Did you catch that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm watching." No, you were looking at your phone. Let me pause it real quick. So like, what just happened is Tyler Durden isn't real, and I'm like, I'm gonna fucking throw this TV out this window if you don't shut the hell up. I have seen this movie 18 times. Honestly, Brad Pitt's the hero, bro. I'm like, were we watching the same movie, you idiot? What are you watching? That's not the point of the film. They're like, yeah, I'm trying to get yoked. Like that whole scene and America telling them the thing to unbrainwash them was making me giggle so hard.
Mm-hmm. I
was like, they're not holding back, but all of this resonates.
It's just from the, oh my God, how do I move this? How do I change this image to this? I mean, the whole thing. Yeah. They were like, and the coup de grace is pretend to be bad at sports. And it made me think of like every man that's always like, I could totally beat Venus and Serena Williams in tennis. I'm like, you couldn't beat Venus now in tennis. Like you couldn't get to a game today in her 40s. God.
I remember I read that poll. It was like a poll or something. I forgot what magazine. Someone did like a poll with like asking men to just like, it was like a shocking majority, not like a plurality. It was a majority of men believe that they can beat Serena Williams in a tennis match.
Oh yeah, like, and it was in her prime too. That they were like, oh yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. I'm like, what?
Like it was like I think it was like 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10. It was like some absurd
that
number
whole
like
scene
that.
Made me laugh because it made me think about, I can't remember what NBA player it was. He was on a podcast and he basically said, oh yeah, if given a choice, there are a lot of women from the WNBA I'd rather have as teammates than men. And I remember all the men on the panel were like, you lying. And he was like, when we get off air, I'm gonna name some names and y'all tell me if you take her or him. And then they came back from commercial and some of the guys were like, yeah, he was right. You're right.
Wow.
You're right.
You know what? He should have done it on air. He should have given. He should have said it on record.
Listen, straight props right there.
I know, right? We had Hank Aaron was a family friend, and I remember he did a panel for MLB All-Star Weekend, and some girl stood up and said, "Would you ever let a girl be an MLB?" And there was like one dude from the Mets back when they were like chaotic, and he was like, "No, I never want women in my sport." And Hank Aaron, the GOAT, said, "Oh, she can throw the ball and play the game. I just want whoever's the best." And I remember the murmurs around that room that were like, I had a lot of respect for Hank Aaron, but now, and it's like, so that whole scene of like how to distract a Ken, I was like, this. Or even just the idea that the Mojo Dojo Casa House was flying off the shelves.
That was, yeah. The Mojo.
I was like, that's hilarious. Because I could totally imagine a bunch of dudes being like, yo, I got to get the Mojo Dojo Casa House. And you're like, your Lego set, that's a Death Star, that's a toy. And they're like, no, it's a collectible. And you're like, that G.I. Joe is a doll, sweetheart. It's not a doll. It's a G.I. Joe. And you're like, okay, but you collect dolls.
Action
you
figure.
know that, right?
Yeah.
Which actually, the Mojo Dojo Casa House actually brings up more questions that I had during the movie. Again, I know you're supposed to let go, but I was just like, wait a minute. So like, that means that anything that's happening in Barbie world reflects in the real world with the toy sales and stuff. What is that? What is happening? I was a little confused.
Was that a thing? Yeah.
You know what? I was just like, I kept thinking if that was a thing, I low key wanted there to be a point in there. Again, like these are things for the sequel. It's like, then I want to know, like, is Issa Rae's President Barbie flying off the shelves in one part of the real world, and they want to investigate like what's going on? Like, did they land on her being President Barbie because she in the real world is the highest selling version of President Barbie?
Well, yeah, true.
Well, something's hitting me right now as you guys are talking this. I'm getting this. So in the beginning, you see the paradigm shift from having a baby doll and playing mommy to now having the possibilities presented to you. I can play president. I can play firefighter. All these different things. I can doctor. All of a sudden, that's a paradigm shift in the mentality of these young girls, right? So in the sense of that's what Barbie does, it changes our ideas.
Yeah.
If you have President Barbie and you're giving out President Barbie to your nieces, even to your nephews, let's be open. Everyone, then it's like a paradigm shift. So this is where the dolls affect the real world. It opens up the possibilities here too. And this is what I love about the ending of this particular story. When Barbie asks to be human, she doesn't ask to be a real woman or a real girl, which would have been worse. Yeah. She asks to be human, and Ruth says, "Why are you asking me?" He says, "But you created me." He says, "No, the choice is yours."
Yeah.
Because the creator already has given free will here. You choose. You choose what being human means to you. And then she sees all the possibilities. But Ruth says, but this is what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And then Barbie sees all the possibilities of what it is to be human and says yes.
And isn't that like low key the point of representation, right? Is like, it's the vision expansion is like, you don't think it's physically, you don't even think it's possible till somebody does it, right? Like I always cite that whole like, nobody can run a 4-minute mile story, and then you have somebody break 4 minutes, and now it's like standard to be a good distance runner is to break a 4-minute mile. So like what you're saying, Eddie, is totally like mile? The argument. Right? It's like that's like the argument. Like that is a really beautiful part of it that they're kind of saying is like it works both like for Barbie and for Barbie from the real world. Is like if you can just see another option, all of a sudden the possibilities open up, which is ultimately when every conservative is like, this is hard. I'm like, what they're saying, bro, is it's about choices. If your wife wants to stay home and be the best mommy on the human planet who like custom makes every costume for your kids, great. If she wants to work and have children and have, great. If she wants to just be solo Dr. Barbie, fantastic. If she just wants to be stereotypical Barbie, we love to see it. Like whatever you have now expanded your vision to, go get it. And it's like, but it's not on me to tell you which version is the right version of doing this.
Which I think that was part of the America Forever speech, right? Like even women have this thing where I'm not a woman, but like women will also criticize other women.
Yes.
For not being enough. And it's just
what was that line? I think it might have been Sasha who says like, Or no, it is America Ferrera when she says like, "Oh yeah, men hate women and women hate women. It's the one thing they can both agree on." And it's just
yes,
like,
yes.
And I'm like, "Girl, yes, that part." Like
that's right.
Yes.
Oh, the whole part was just like, oh my god, this is crushing.
That speech is where I definitely just like tears streaming down my face because it is like, because I think about that even for myself, like from the small perspective of like being in a caregiver position for my parents, but then like you can't talk about your parents. But like I like this thing where I just kept thinking of the duality of like, I'm supposed to be an ever-present daughter, but I have to always be at work, but I can't be at work too much because that makes me a workaholic. But I can't have too high-powered of a job because that scares men. But you can't be stupid because that makes men think you're not worth marrying. Like it was just that part. And when she just said, I'm tired, I was like, that part, I'm exhausted. And to end it with, and if we impose all of that on a doll, like I think just that whole speech, I was like, America Ferrera should get a Best Supporting Actress.
Oh, yeah.
And I appreciated that everybody put those words in her mouth and not any of the Barbies. To be honest, a lot of people have been like, I didn't want to hear it from stereotypical. I didn't want to hear it from any of the Barbies. I don't want to hear it from Alexandra Shipp in her 20s with arms that are the size, like with a waist that's the size of my thigh. If she had given that speech, I'd be like, shut the fuck up. Shut up. Like if Kate McKinnon gave that speech, I'd be like, oh yeah, it's so hard, Ellen DeGeneres, the sequel, to be a rich, wealthy lesbian. But it was something about like, you haven't seen her in a minute. Where's she been? Over 40-year-old, like late 30, America Ferrera giving that speech where I was like, that. When she's, and then also it's like she's no longer Ugly Betty, right? It's like this beautiful woman spent her career playing a character called Ugly Betty, and all of us went, yeah, I get what you're trying to say here, but like, can y'all pick somebody else, please, to try to make this point with? It's just, I'm so grateful she was the one that had that speech, because had it come out of anybody else's mouth, I'd have been like, shut the hell up, shut up.
Truly.
No,
and I do. I mean, I've been a fan of America Ferrera since Real Women Have Curves.
Can we talk about the teeny tiny gotta kick it up Easter egg of the husband turning and going, "Si se puede," and she goes, "Don't do that. It's appropriation." When I tell you my entire swim team spent that whole summer being like, again, guys, my country club swim team, I want you to think about who was saying this. We would get in huddles and people would be like, "Si se puede, si se puede." And when she said, "Don't say that, it's appropriation," I went, oh, this is that movie. This is that movie. This is what we're doing.
Very self-aware.
Yeah, movie. I was like, this woman is basically
how do you
not
laugh at these parts? You are jaded.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess so.
All I could think was that's also America being like, if one more white person runs up to me and goes, I know you, don't I? Oh, si se puede, I know you.
Oh my God.
Right? I have to go to the bathroom so bad. Please continue on. I will
do
I'm
it.
just going to be gone for like 1 minute.
Yeah, we don't want to keep you too long, MacKenzie. So, but yeah, I mean, I thought this film was lovely. Issa Rae, the few parts I wanted more.
I did too.
Of Issa Rae, but the few we got, just the curse alone.
The curse alone was brilliant. I think Hari Nef was so brilliant in there, and I kind of love the idea that, like, again, I love that possibly conservatives have Google alerts on every trans actress on their computer, because the idea that they knew which one she was is wild to me. But I kind of love that the one trans Barbie was Dr. Barbie. I don't know. I don't know if that was intentional, but it was very funny to me to have like all medical advice and confirmation comes from her.
Yeah. So interesting. I had only, it was after the movie had come out and I watched it. Well, I didn't even know there was like a trans.
That's what my mother said. My mom's immediate reaction is I said, "Mom, there was a trans woman in the movie. That's like one of the controversies." And I go, I love to play this game with my mom. Which person is trans? Because we do that during Euphoria. I'm like, which person is trans? And she did not think it was Hunter Schafer. I'll tell you that much. I had to burst her little bubble to tell her that. She was like, so she like completely guessed wrong, and then when I said it, she goes, "What? Yeah. Why did they know that?" And then she's the one that said, "Do they have them all memorized? Why? Like what's?"
And not just that, it wasn't like she was at no point was she preaching trans rights or anything.
She just existed. But I think that's the thing. Like I always think back to that Cracker Barrel outrage from conservatives when they offered Beyond Meat. Remember? And it was like, and they were like, we're going to offer, and people were losing their minds. They're like, I'm never going to come to Cracker Barrel again. And I was like, oh, are they getting rid of real meat? No, they were just offering choices. You could just, anybody is allowed in the doors of this place. And I thought that was the funny part about Barbie. At no point were they like, hey, look in the background, there's a Barbie with a bionic arm. Hey, there's going to be a Barbie in a wheelchair. They just kept it rolling. And then all of a sudden you had people being like, I've discovered there's a trans person. And I'm like, I don't hear any of you talking about Kate. Like, it was just, you're like, Kate McKinnon's right there, Hari Neff's right there. Like, I'm sure there's a bunch more queer background Barbies that you don't have identified. Like, who knows how many Kens are gay? Like, move on. But it was just this idea that they were like, this trans woke mob. I'm like, girl, please just say the N-word. Please say the N-word or some other slur so we can move on from this woke, placeholder y'all use.
I mean, like, to put so much energy into like one actress, it's just like at no point, like, it's just like, if you didn't know, you didn't know.
Ben Shapiro has made more videos about the Barbie movie in runtime than the actual Barbie movie itself.
Yeah.
He loved it. He loved that movie so much. Yeah, right. Like,
it's all he wants to talk about. I want to give some other shout outs for some real quick actors that I thought were killed it in this film. Simu Liu.
Yes.
I thought he was lovely.
He was great.
He was having a good time too.
He was.
They had such great chemistry.
They did.
They did.
Yes.
Yeah.
That beach off moment.
That beach off was great. The beach off was so
yeah.
I loved it.
It was just so dumb, but I was just like, I was having the time of my life watching that sequence. Kate McKinnon as Weird Barbie. I thought, what a seed stealer. She was great. I think having her with that fake leg, like, just constantly in a split,
that was so
hilarious.
Good. I mean, because that's like some little girls I remember playing with, where you're just like, I would go to their houses and think like, oh my god, what is happening?
It's like, we've all seen Cynthia on Rugrats, right?
Yes.
Like, and they exist. They're real.
This was basically Cynthia's origin story. It was like, do you want to know what happened to Cynthia? How she got to be like this? Weird Barbie.
And the other last one I want to give a shout out to is Michael Cera as Alan. Talk about what an understated performance, and it's so memorable.
Somebody said recently, I think the casting director said they almost had they wanted to have Jonathan Groff.
Oh, interesting.
I'll be honest, and no disrespect to you, Michael Cera. I mean this in the nicest way possible, because I do think you're really cute. I think Jonathan is a little too conventionally attractive to have played
Agreed.
Alan.
I would agree.
Yep.
Because that scene when Alan starts fighting while they are discussing in the car whether like to stay or go, and Alan is over here doing full karate, taking people down in sleeper holds. Like, when he's holding that Ken by the neck and he goes, just go to sleep. Just go to sleep. Just go to sleep. Like, this is chaos. I was like, Michael Cera, I just like that everybody... They are doing what what's his face from the Elvis movie thought he was doing, which is like the movie is over. Yes. Like, they are fully now still in character. Like, for them to be on the red carpet.
Oh, Austin Butler.
Butler. Like, I hope that their time until the Oscars is them pulling an Austin Butler. Because when they interview Michael Cera about this film, he's always like, well, like, I didn't realize on the carpet, Michael Cera wore the same suit that Ryan Gosling wore.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
But it was less tailored. So it was a little, it looked big on it. Like, I'm obsessed with how demented all of these people have become for this film. I love that.
I know, it's great.
I just love that, like, they're all having full Austin Butlers, but for the Barbie movie. That, like, Ryan Gosling can't shake it. Michael Cera is still in his Alan. Like,
yeah. And also, shout out to Midge. I just want to say shout out to Midge.
The cameos of Midge. That was making me.
The pregnant doll, yeah.
I like that everybody kept trying to get past her. Everybody kept being like, no, Midge, go away. Like, I loved all the...
discontinued you.
All the discontinued dolls coming out, like Sugar's Daddy. And like, it was just so stupid. Even my mom said, mom goes, I remember that Skipper, that when you pulled her arms down, her boobs grew. And she was like, and your grandmother immediately was like, well, this was a mistake. Let's not play with this one.
Yeah.
I was going to say, there's something I'm realizing this year of the podcast more and more, but like, we've been enjoying more movies where you can tell the cast has been having fun with it. I don't think that always translates well. Like, I think the Ocean's sequels are a great attestament to that, where like, the cast can be having a great time, but like, doesn't mean it's going to be a great movie. But it does help.
Yeah.
I think give you a better product. This one, we see this. And some of the rumors I had heard behind the scenes was that Greta Gerwig had like instilled Pink Day, right?
Yeah,
where
she had
on
movie
set had to wear
church.
pink.
So basically, all those movies from the Letterboxd video, she rented out like a theater, and she would show them every Sunday, and they would have movie church.
I love this.
Sounds so great.
Right?
But obviously it helps because it gives you a better product at the end of the day. Like, and
I think the accidental things that happened off camera, right? Like the idea that the Barbies had pajama parties, and America Ferrera talked about how she didn't realize they were supposed to wear cute pajamas. So like everybody who was a Barbie showed up in like these cutesy silky outfits, and she came in like cotton pajamas. And it's like, oh, well, because you're the one human. Or like the idea that Simu Liu was like, yeah, we heard that the Barbies were having sleepovers, but we weren't invited, so we would just go to the gym together instead. It's like, it's like, oh, so you guys just actually kept again, they were doing what Austin Butler thought he was doing in real life.
Or without realizing it, like Greta Gerwig just wrote reality.
Yeah,
it's just like
she did.
I mean, on some level, we all just like fall into these roles without realizing it.
Yeah.
Like it just happens.
I like that Ryan Gosling was hard to get, and like that they had to keep like coming to him, and how his awakening was playing with his daughters. And he was like, they don't even call him Ken, his name is Jerome. And she was like, and Jerome has been kicked out of his house many times. And I basically was like, I saw Ken in the backyard face down in the mud, and I texted Greta and said, yeah, I want to do this movie. I have to tell this doll story.
That's great. Yeah.
That's funny.
And I just love how people just showed up for this movie, and just like had like just dressed up, and people were just like extravagant gowns and every level of pink.
I mean, I love that when I call my mom, she goes, hi, Barbie. And I go, hi, Barbie. Like, and we do that. And again, it makes me laugh because my dad keeps going, when do I get to see the movie? Like in the background. And she's like, shut up, Ken.
Yeah. Yeah.
Watching the people though in pink did like enliven my spirit. Like that whole weekend, you just see people, if you saw them walking around in pink, you knew they were probably going or coming out of a Barbie screening.
Yeah.
But like, did you guys see any fabulous dresses? Like Eddie and I did see like a couple of people like in straight up gowns.
I wanted to go to my Alamo showing because I heard that apparently they had a Barbie themed drag show before the showing at Alamo.
Oh my god!
Here's what upset me about this. Yeah, Alamo has everything brilliant. We all know that is my go-to theater. For some reason, my dumb brain thought like every movie, I'll buy the tickets like 3 days before. I was like, you dummy! Alamo's been sold out for like 8 months.
It's still sold out. Like you go to any theater, for the most part, it's sold out. Yeah. Like people are turning out for this.
I'm glad
so
because
exciting.
like, because as we mentioned, it's just like, it's not like the most like rip roaring hilarious film, but it is still a movie that delivers like a message and like it has depth.
The commercial in the middle of the movie is one of the funniest. Again, that was another part that had me cackling. Was the momentary commercial for Depression Barbie.
Depression Barbie.
I was dead. Or I love when she was like, I want a Barbie. Can I be a Barbie that has cellulite? And everybody's like, no, that's so stupid. And then she's like, well, can I just be a Barbie that has a nice top? And like that just so great.
I mean, like I'm so thankful this movie exists because it's been a long time since audiences went to a theater and saw their lives reflected back at them.
Yes.
There's too much escapism and there's too much just other worlds, which is fine.
Yeah.
Because we're all just like so unhappy with our world that we love to escape to a better one. But you could go, you can have a good time, and then you could actually be spoken to and have your life fucking resonated with you in the screen and feel seen. That's so important.
Yeah.
Ironically, a Barbie movie that does that because
I know, right?
If you think about it, it takes place in Barbie Land, which is pure escapism.
I mean, it does that line. It toes that line so perfectly. So, and it's the event of the summer. No other movie's going to compete with this.
No.
Nope.
And I just hope Hollywood wakes up to the fact that it's like people will turn out if you give them something new. So don't do another fucking franchise. It's not just like Disney's. Like, give them a run for their fucking money. This is becoming
a franchise.
Yeah.
I know, and they're reading the wrong. No, they truly the wrong message from this.
But like, isn't that also what the movie is saying is ultimately like
they knew it was gonna happen
because they even ended it with kind of like, hey, we know you haven't really been paying attention to this deep message, so here's a funny laugh on your way out the door. Like, it's kind of like the joke people make about Andre 3000, where they're like, how there's literally a line in the song where he's like, y'all don't want to hear me, you just want to dance, like. It's like, yes, truly. So it's like, here's this deep introspective moment. You're crying. Billie Eilish, for the first time, I really got it because I was like, my God, this is a beautiful song. And then to end it with like, you know, and I kept being like, what's she getting? She's going to her first job. Like, for some reason, I was like, she's going to a job, or she's going to a casting because she's going to change the world. And she's like, I'm here to see my gynecologist. I was like,
what a great joke also. Just like, I mean,
yeah.
It truly felt like Greta said, I know you kind of got what I just said, but here's something funny if somebody asked you what it was that you saw.
Like, how are we going to end this movie? Oh, right. I know. Perfect. Yeah. It was a great ending.
Last thing I kind of do want to say, though, and this is kind of just going back to like the strikes that are ongoing at the moment, but one of the issues that at least the Writers Guild is fighting against is like this use of AI. And I think something that we should just like a key takeaway here is that like this was written by a person, and like the person, the two people who wrote this one, they had a vision. Yeah. They went weird with it in a way that like I don't think AI could have.
A machine would have never said, and then Issa Rae cusses down the stairs, and then Lizzo sings a song about Barbie's perfect day, and then Lizzo sings the same song again but changes the words about the lyrics, existential dread, and then Helen Mirren acknowledges that Margot Robbie's very pretty. Like I think that's the other thing of like calling your shot way in advance. For this movie to have no CGI, be written by two people, have been a long slow process to get made, to have an actor show up to make physical choices that, again, a computer would not have told Ryan Gosling to come that yoked up, that blonde, or that tan. But it's like, the movie also feels like a response to everything right now of like, a computer could have done none of these things or would not have suggested any of these things. A computer would have said, cast Chris Evans as Ken. Like, a computer would not have picked Ryan Gosling. That's why when people are like, he's so old, he doesn't look like Ken. And when Ryan said, you guys have never thought about Ken a day in your life. Don't even lie. Don't even lie that you have ever given Ken a moment's notice. Like,
he looks so old. Isn't he younger than Chris Evans?
I think he's older than Chris. I have no clue. That man,
good question,
is a treat. Like, but I just think that this movie feels like an answer to like, the machines can't do any of this. Like,
they can't. And then also just to the other point, it's just like, I mean, they're considering AI could like replace executives, right?
Yes.
But the executives were the ones that also made the decision to like go with this film versus the Amy Schumer film that was on the works, which it was Amy Schumer was going to be Barbie. She was going to get kicked out of Barbie Land because she didn't fit the convention.
And it would have been annoying, right? Because that's all I kept thinking during that movie is, I'm so grateful Amy Schumer didn't make this movie. And I go, because here's two parts I never wanted to see her play. I didn't want to see her in America Ferrera's role. Because again, that speech coming out of the mouth of Amy Schumer, I would have been like, this conversation right now would be a very different one.
Agreed.
Or if the whole point of her Barbie, which that gets exhausting because it becomes a little Barbra Streisand, like, my life has always been a struggle. My nose is so big. Barbara, we gotta have a conversation. Like, if that had been the entire, like, the plight of Amy Schumer's life is her thighs touch. It's like, Amy, shut up. Shut up. But I mean, it's like, this movie was made at the perfect time. If it had been approved when they wanted it, we would have a garbage film.
Seriously, like, it entered the zeitgeist at the perfect time. So this movie is made for right now. By the way, Chris Evans, Ryan Gosling, same age.
Shocker.
Wow.
Shocker.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because he's also the same age as Chris Pine, too.
All three of those guys are the same age?
Chris Pine
How old are they?
42.
Chris Pine is 8,000 years old and also very young. He is a confusing... He is Eric Northman. That is Chris Pine. He figured out a spot where he wants to age, and that's where we're staying.
Nice reference. True Blood. Love it. Yeah. Well, MacKenzie, thank you so much, as always, for just entering Barbie Land with us.
Listen, I would not have done this with any other person. I literally have held off discussing it with anybody because I trust no one else with this conversation.
So glad, so grateful.
That's so good.
Oh, Nicole, I didn't tell you were here, but like, Nicole, like, we got a straight up shout out on the Taylor Strecker Show. That's right. Taylor Strecker heard my name. I was just like, what?
Oh my god!
Wild.
Well, that's exciting.
I literally said on that show, I'm not getting into it with y'all because I'm talking about this on Rolando's show. Remakes, reboots, and revivals. You can tune in over there. I'll be talking about it in depth. I'm not talking with y'all about this movie.
Yes. Love it. Thank you so much.
It was wonderful and stuff. And I actually do enjoy listening to Taylor Strecker talk about movies because, like, I feel like she's also just a very base, like, Nicole and I, we study film and stuff, and you consume this stuff, and you're an avid reader. So like, we have different understandings of film, but like, hey, everyone has opinions, and I don't think no such thing as a wrong opinion.
Nobody's true. I think this is also a great example of, like we talked about Nolan and the aspect ratios and all this stuff. People have stopped really teaching and pushing moviegoers to treat movies as art and not strictly as entertainment. Like, I love the Fast and Furious franchise as much as the next person, but when people want to discuss like directorial integrity and shots and realism using Fast and the Furious, I'm like, baby cakes, we talking about the wrong movies. But like, I'll do that all day on a Greta Gerwig, a Jordan Peele. It's like, those are the people you have to go into and understand. Like, you're not going to get spoon-fed the story in the trailer. You're not going to get everything. Like, this is an art piece meant to be watched, consumed, taken care of in a certain way.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which actually, you mentioned Jordan Peele. Like, so maybe this is the move that like Hollywood should go, is like give like actual visionaries IPs and let them go wild with it. So if you could give Jordan Peele like an IP, like a toy.
I mean, listen, if Justin Simien can make the Haunted Mansion movie, I'm like, yes, I want Justin Simien to give me the Haunted Mansion. I want Daniel Kaluuya and Jordan Peele to work together to make Barney. I want Greta Gerwig to do Barbie. It's like, I want Ava DuVernay to do one of these. It's like, that's what happens when Ryan Coogler makes a superhero movie, or the woman Chloe Zhao makes a Marvel film. All of a sudden you go, oh, this is what this is. Got it.
Sometimes the audience, like the general audience, will be like not the warmest reception, but eventually they'll warm up to it. Eventually,
this movie will probably be studied in film school.
Like
down to
Nicole,
down to every single reference, and I love that. Like, I love that we are back in that era again.
Yeah. I'm going to be teaching fantasy in film and TV. I want Barbie to be part of my curriculum.
Please.
Oh, please.
Yeah. So, well, thank you once again so much for coming on. Haunted Mansion is next week, but I know you're busy. Yeah. So.
And also, these people are like, we hear her every she's always here. Tell her to
they love it.
They love it.
Yeah, but if there's anything coming up you want to talk about, just hit us up.
I will. You know I will.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah.
MacKenzie, you have a podcast now you promote.
Yes. You guys can hear me on The World Needs Nerds on all podcast platforms. It's part of the Sonar Network under LA Comic-Con. And if you ever have listened to me on these episodes and thought, wow, that bitch loves to run her mouth, then you will love The World Needs Nerds. We talk about all things nerddom, fandom, everything from X-Men collectible cards to fan fiction and Wattpad. So guys, every Monday, The World Needs Nerds.
Guys, listen, for sure.
And
of course, you can hear her on the Taylor Strecker Show, as we've said many times this episode.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And I think that's it. Guys, until next time, stay unoriginal.